uh, students are hearing my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay, some due to some technical issue, the there are some disturbance has taken place. If any disturbance has taken place, please wait for 2 3 minutes, and again please join. Okay, right. So I will continue my lecture, and before going to my lecture, I have to share my screen, and then I will start. Yes, students are getting my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay. So now I can start with inventions and technology in ancient China. And the ancient Chinese were famous by their inventions and technology, and many of their inventions had a lasting impact on the entire world. And other inventions led to great feats of engineering skills like the Grand Canal, and also the Terracotta Army, and also the Great Wall of China were the great things basically had the technological and engineering skills behind them, right? And there are certain things where you see such the technological skill which you see among them. The first one is the silk. Silk is one of the contribution of these ancient Chinese people, and we already had the things about the preparation and the secret behind the preparation of the silk. Later, which revealed that secret to all over the world. We already discussed as a part of the economical aspects. We already discussed. And now we will go with one or two points about the contribution of the silk to the entire world. And silk was a soft and light material which is desired by the wealthy throughout the world. It became such a valuable export that the trade route running from Europe to China became known as the Silk Road. Okay, so which is up to the Central Asia, through the Central Asia, particularly touching the territories of India, Pakistan, and such Gulf countries, and entering into the Europe. Okay, so such a largest route, particularly which initial point you see from the Changang, sorry, um, uh, uh, the place where you see from the Chinese territory. Okay, so which is nothing but a Silk Road, and the Chinese learn how to make silk from the cocoons of silkworms, and they manage to keep the process for making silk a secret for the 100 years, 100 of years, which no one in the world except from the Chinese territory were known about the making of the silk. Okay, so and when you see about the paper, paper was invented by the Chinese as well as many interesting uses for paper, like paper money and playing various things with paper, which is a initiation started from the people of China. And you are well known that the paper which prepared first was started from the Chinese territories, particularly in the second century BC. I already mentioned about a person who was the main who behind the preparation of the making of the paper with certain waste material and certain material from the plants or the soil who prepared in and around 105 ADR like that. Okay, so later the paper which is widespread material to the world, entire world, and from the medieval world onwards, the usage of paper became one of the common event in the life of every human being. Okay, so when you see another interesting contribution from the Chinese, ancient Chinese people were the printing, and woodblock printing was invented in 868, and then movable type around 200 years later. And this was actually hundreds of years before the invention of printing, pressed by Gutenberg in Europe during the medieval period. And another one is the compass. The Chinese invented the magnetic compass to help determine the correct direction while they are moving through the sea voice. Okay, so whenever a traveler moving to new place, along with the uh, a particular the sea route, they definitely use this compass. Okay, so they use this in particularly while moving with the sea or any sea route, and then they are using in the city planning like that. Okay, so and another one is the gunpowder, which is also important contribution from the Chinese territory to the world. And gunpowder was invented in the approximately 19th, 9th century or like that by trying to find the elixir of immortality. And not long after, the engineers figured out how to use gunpowder for military uses such as bombs, guns, mines, and even rockets. They also invented fireworks and made great, beautiful displays of fireworks for the celebrations. Okay, so when you see the boat rudder, the rudder was invented as a way to steer large ships, and this enabled the Chinese to build used ships as early as 200 AD, well before they were ever built in Europe. Okay, so when you see the other, then these contributions, other inventions include the umbrella, porcelain, the wheel barrow, iron casting, hot air balloons, and seismographs to measure the earthquakes, kites, matches, stirrups for riding horse, and acupuncture. Like you see, number of certain scientific contributions from the Chinese civilization. Apart from these, you can also see certain important and fun factors from the China, which is gunpowder, paper, printing, and other compass are sometimes called the four great inventions of ancient China. And kites were first used as a way for the army to signal warnings, and umbrellas were invented for protection from the sun as well as the rain, and which is also a great contribution from the China. And the Chinese doctors knew about certain herbs to help sick people. Also, they also knew that eating or taking good food was important to being healthy, and compasses were often used to make sure that homes were built facing the correct direction so they would be in the harmony with nature. And the Grand Canal in China is the longest man-made canal or river in the world. It is over one 1,100 miles long and stretches from Beijing to Hangzhou. And they also invented the abacus in the second century BC. And this was a calculator that used sliding beads to help compute math problems quickly. and a clear coating called lacquer was made to protect and enhance certain works of art and furniture. And also, paper money was first developed and used in China during the Tang Dynasty onwards. Okay, so apart from these, I will give you other certain important great things which you find in the territories of territories of China. First one is the Great Wall of China, and then I will give you about the Grand Canal also, and I will give you about the Great Wall of China. I will give you one or two point first of all, and then I'll move to the Grand Canal. And the Great Wall of China is a wall that covers much of northern border of China, and the length of Great Wall, which is a great wall built by the Ming Dynasty, is around 5,000 500 miles long. Okay, so and the wall was built to help keep out northern invaders like the Mongols, and smaller walls had been built over the years. But the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, decided that he wanted a single giant wall to protect his northern borders, and he ordered that a single strong wall be built with thousands of locked out towers where soldiers would guard and protect his empire. And the original Great Wall was started by the Qin dynasty, and following dynasties continued to work on it. And later, Ming dynasty rebuilt the wall, and much of the Great Wall that we know today was built by the Ming dynasty only. And the wall was built by peasant slaves, and Stein criminals are like that. The emperor decided to punish, and soldiers were involved in building the wall and in managing the workers as well. And uh, the wall was really fortification to protect northern border, and it was a wall, but also a watchtowers, beacon towers to send signals, and blockhouses to house soldiers. And there were soldiers guarding the walls, towers, and there were also towns built along the wall to garrison soldiers, so they could quickly get to the wall in case of large attack. And it estimated that over 1 million soldiers guarding the Great Wall during the height of the Ming Dynasty are like that. Okay, so after that, I will give you one or two points regarding the Grand Canal, and then I will end up my lecture. And when you see the Grand Canal is a man-made watermark that runs from north to south in the eastern China. That is the longest man-made waterway in the world. Okay, so the canal which stretches over above the 1,000 miles from the city of Beijing to the city of Hangzhou, and it's sometimes called the Beijing Hangzhou Canal, and which besides connecting these two major cities, and the canal also connects the two major rivers of China, the Yellow River and Yangtze River. And the canal was built in order to easily ship which grain from the rich from the rich farmland in southern China to the capital city in the Beijing. And this is also helped the emperors to feed the soldiers guarding the northern borders. And when you see certain things regarding certain early canals which constructed in the ancient China, and the ancient Chinese built early canals to help the transportation and commerce. And one early section was the Han-Yu Canal built by Qin Fichai of Yu around 480 BC. And this canal stretched from the Yangtze River to the Hawaii River, and another ancient canal was the Hangu Canal, which went from Yellow River to the Bian River. And these ancient canals became the basis for the Grand Canal over 1,000 years later. And when you see the building of the Grand Canal, it was during the Sui dynasty that Grand Canal was built, and the Emperor Ang of the Shu wanted a quicker and more efficient way of transporting grain to his capital city Beijing, and he also needed to supply his army that guarded northern China from the Mongols. He decided to connect the existing canals and expand them to go all the way from Beijing to Hangzhou. And building the canal was a huge project, and it took over 6 years of hard work by millions of laborers. And Emperor Hang was a tyrant, and he forced millions of farmers to work on the canal. Many of them died and during the construction. And however, when the canal was finally completed, China had a new waterway that could enrich the country for hundreds of years to come. And the Ming dynasty rebuilt much of the canal in the early 14th century. And they made the canal deeper, built new canal locks, and constructed reservoirs to regulate the water in the canal. And the main purpose of the canal continued to be the transport of grain. And this continued throughout the Ming dynasty and most of the history of ancient China. Okay, so apart from that, there are other important contributions. One is when you see one is the certain things, particularly the mathematical numbering, one of the contribution from the Chinese people. And when you see certain numbers and colors which followed in the ancient China, particularly the numbers and colors had great meaning and played an important role in the culture of ancient China. And some were considered lucky, while others were considered unlucky and should be avoided. And some were so special they were reserved for the emperor alone. And when you see the certain numbers, numbers were important to the ancient Chinese people, and they often used lucky numbers in their buildings and designs while avoiding unlucky numbers also. When you see the lucky numbers, the number two is lucky, and the Chinese often decorated in pairs, and they also have a saying good things come in pairs. And three, the number three is considered lucky because it sounds like the Chinese word for birth, and it also it is important in the Buddhist religion where there are three realms of existence, three roots of evil, and three bodies of the Buddha. And five also another important lucky number, and the number five is lucky because of the five elements of Chinese philosophy, which are fire, water, earth, metal, and wood. And they also consider eight also a luckiest number because the word eight in Chinese sounds like the word of prosper. Even today, the people of China also will pay more for address, which is they use the eight. And when you see as a part of unlucky, 4 and 14 were the two important. 4, 14, and 24, they consider them as a unlucky. Okay, so when you see the colors as a part in the Chinese civilization, there are five primary colors you will see: red, black, green, white, and yellow. And red is the color of fire, which also consider mainly they particularly red used greatly in the part of the southern Chinese civilization. It symbolizes good luck, happiness, and success. And red is often the color used at celebrations in such a occasions like the wedding and birthdays are like. And the black is the color of water, the winter and the north. The color mainly used in the territories of northern chain civilization. Okay, so it is the color of heaven, and was the favorite color for the first emperor of China, Queen, right? So green is the color of wood, the spring and the east, and another one is the white they used. Okay, so when you see certain other things, particularly about the Chinese art. And with the Chinese art, I will conclude my class lecture today. And just I will give you one or two points regarding Chinese art. And ancient China produced many types of beautiful works of art, different eras and dynasties had their specialties, and Chinese philosophy and religion had an impact on artistic styles and subjects. And you see the three perfections. The three perfections were the calligraphy, poetry, and painting, and even they would be combined together in art. And these became important starting with the Song dynasty. And when you see the calligraphy, and this is art of handwriting, and the ancient Chinese considered writing an important form of art, and calligraphers would practice for years to learn to write perfectly, but with style. And each of the over 4,000, sorry, 40,000 characters needed to be drawn precisely. Okay, so you are watching on the screen about such a great contribution of calligraphy, and you are watching certain signs of the ancient Chinese calligraphy, uh, like in the form of certain pictures or a pictographic form. And when you see as a poetry, and poetry was an important form of art as well, and great poets were famous throughout the empire, but all educated people were expected to write poetry. And during the Tang dynasty, poetry became so important that writing poetry was part of examinations to become a civil servant or work for the government. And the painting was often inspired by poetry and combined with calligraphy. Many paintings were landscapes that featured mountains, home, birds, trees, and water. And another one is the porcelain. Main fine Chinese porcelain was not only an important art but also became an important export. During the Ming Dynasty, blue and white vases became highly priced and were sold to the wealthy throughout other parts of the Europe and Asia. Okay, so when you see the terracotta army, one of the important thing you have to see as a part of the architecture of ancient China. And the terracotta army is a fascinating aspect of ancient Chinese art, and it was created for the burial of first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, in order to protect him from the afterlife. And it consisted of thousands of sculptures that make up an army of soldiers. And there were sculptures over 8,000 soldiers and 520 horses in the terracotta army. And these weren't tiny sculptures either. All 8,000 soldiers were life size, and they had details too, including uniforms, weapons, armor, and each soldier even had his own unique face also. Okay, so these are such contributions you'll see from ancient Chinese civilization. And students, this is end of my class. Also, end of the Chinese civilization. And from tomorrow, we'll see about other civilization. I will start with uh, ancient Egypt. Okay, so and we have second internal also on fifth and sixth, I think. Okay, so sixth and seventh, right? So you are please ready with ready for this internal assessment and uh, students, are you hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So be ready with the second internal assessment to be held on 6th and 7th, right? So the process is the same. We will post uh, the paper in the WhatsApp group, and you have to answer it and send it back to the individual WhatsApp numbers of particular teacher, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. On the first day, you have the three papers and two on the second day, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Shall I end my class?
Okay, sir.
Right.
సార్
Uh,
ఎగ్జామ్స్ ఎప్పుడు ఉండొచ్చు సార్?
ఇప్పుడు చెప్పింది అదే కదమ్మా. సిక్స్త్
ఫైనల్ ఎగ్జామ్ సార్, సెమ్ సార్.
ముందు ఇంటర్నల్ అయిపోయి ఫైనల్ తర్వాత చూద్దాం, రైట్? సో వాటికి సంబంధించి ఏమైనా ఉంటే అప్డేట్స్ ఇస్తూ ఉంటాము. ఓకే. సో ముందైతే ఇంటర్నల్ కంప్లీట్ అయిన తర్వాత మీకు ఎక్స్టర్నల్కి సంబంధించి చెప్తాను. టెంటేటివ్ డేట్ అయితే ఉన్నది, కానీ ఆ డేట్స్లో జరుగుతాయా లేదా అనేది కొంచెం డౌట్ఫుల్, రైట్? సో ఏమన్నా సర్క్యులర్ వస్తే దానికి సంబంధించి అది మీకు పోస్ట్ చేస్తాను గ్రూప్లో. ఓకే.
ఓకే సార్.
రైట్.